In this video I'm going to be putting the Google Pixel 7 Pro's camera against the Google Pixel 6a's camera to see how different they actually are. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. We post car and tech videos. We're going to aim for 10 likes, so it would really support the channel if you hit that like button. Now on with the video. Both the Pixel 6a and the Pixel 7 Pro were released in 2022, but at slightly different price points. Although they're both Pixel phones, they actually have very different cameras. The Pixel 7 Pro has a 5x telephoto lens that has a 48 megapixel sensor, a 50 megapixel main camera, and a 12 megapixel wide angle. But all cameras produce a 12 megapixel photo file. Pixel 6a on the other hand has the last generation 12.2 megapixel main sensor and a 12 megapixel wide angle camera. Both phones are able to shoot at 4K 60. The Pixel 7 Pro uses the newer Tensor G2 chip for image processing, whereas the Pixel 6a still uses the older G1 chip. So we're now going to go outside and test these cameras. So we've decided to come when the sun's setting so we can test out the low light performance of both these phones. But before it sets, we're going to get some normal photos. The landscape. We're next going to test out the wide angle lens. We're next going to test out the portrait mode on my dog. Try a macro. There we go. Alright, we're going to take a picture of a lake. So the light's dropped quite a lot, so we're going to test out the cameras again. We're going to test out the wide angle lenses in low light. Both images look quite grainy through the viewfinder. It's gotten even darker and we're going to test the cameras again. I'm going to take a picture of the tripod filming me with the camera on. So we're back and we've used the Astro mode on the Pixel 7. So now we're testing out the Pixel 6a's Astro-photography mode. So it takes a 4-minute long exposure. Hi, so we're back again after testing the cameras of these two phones, and I've just uploaded all the photos onto my laptop, so we're just going to have a look and compare the photos and see how they both perform. We're starting off with this landscape image with a rock and a tree and some kind of fields in the background. This was taken when the light was still quite good, so I'm expecting these to be very similar. And just looking at them both, they are very similar. They both take very nice sharp images. So I've just zoomed in on these images and I've had a look around, and I actually can't tell any difference between these two images. I think they both look very sharp. So there isn't really one image that's better than the other, so they both performed really well on that image. So next we're going to have a look at the wide angle images that we took. This was the wide angle photo in the slightly better lighting, so this is best case scenario. And just one thing to note, the wide angle lens on the Pixel 7 Pro is actually slightly wider than that on the 6a. Yeah, this is quite an interesting result. So the Pixel 6a looks as if it's produced a slightly sharper image when zoomed in than the Pixel 7 Pro. So that's quite interesting. To test out the portrait mode, I took a photo of my dog and I went onto the portrait setting on both of these cameras, and it looks as if the Pixel 7 Pro hasn't actually taken a portrait photo. I'm not really sure what's gone on because I did select the portrait setting, whereas the Pixel 6a has managed to take a portrait photo that actually looks really good. So next I took a close-up photo of some bracken. Both of these images look very similar, but when you zoom in it looks to me as if the 7 Pro has slightly more detail on the bracken, and due to the larger sensor size, the 7 Pro has slightly more depth of field. The next image is a little bit unfair. We've taken a telephoto image with both cameras. The 7 Pro has a telephoto lens, which helps out quite a lot with this, whereas the Pixel 6a is just cropping in on its main camera. One thing that I think is quite interesting is the main camera on the Pixel 6a is actually exactly the same as that on the Pixel 3, which we reviewed in a previous video. So next is an image also taken with the wide angle lenses on both phones. This was taken in even lower light conditions. Pixel 7's image does look slightly brighter, but when we zoom into this bush we can see that both images are very noisy and have lost a lot of detail, so I would probably say this was equal. So this next image was taken at very low light conditions using the night sight mode on both phones using the main cameras, and it's just taken of some rocks. But after you zoom in, you actually realise they're both still very similar images, which is very surprising. given how much larger the sensor is in the 7 Pro. Yeah, I can't say one looks better than the other. So the next image is also using the night sight mode on both phones, and I took a picture of my camera on its tripod. The 7 Pro has more depth of field. Overall detail wise, the 6A actually is holding up really well. So I've zoomed in and I can actually see there's actually a bit of motion blur with the 7 Pro. So after taking those images, I waited about an hour and a half and the light went right down. So this is pretty much pitch black outside at this point, and I decided to just switch to the normal night sight mode on both these phones and try to take a picture outside. And as you can see, the Pixel 6a's image is completely black. I can't see anything in it. With the 7 Pro, you can slightly see the sky. There's a bit of an outline around the top of the trees. So after taking that photo handheld using the night sight mode on both these phones, I then got my tripod and positioned both these phones on my tripod, and they both have an Astro-photography mode where they take a 4-minute exposure of the sky. These are the results. So they both look really good. Both phones managed to take very nice photos of the starry night. But it's this photo where there's a slightly larger difference between the two cameras. To me, the Pixel 7 Pro is a clear winner. The colour of the sky on the Pixel 7 Pro looks much more natural to me compared with the slightly greenish tint that the Pixel 6a has put on the night sky. I've also noticed that the Pixel 7 Pro has managed to pick up more of the smaller stars, which is very impressive. So that's all the photos we had to compare. So to be honest, if you're taking photos in good lighting conditions, there really isn't much difference between these two cameras. The only improvements you're going to get from the 7 Pro are with the kind of extremes. So if you want to do astrophotography, the 7 Pro has produced a slightly better image than the 6A. And also if you care about zooming in a lot on your images, obviously the 7 Pro has a telephoto lens. So I'd be curious to hear from you which images you prefer. Leave that in the comment section below. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing if you want to see any more tech videos from me or car reviews. And I'm also starting my job as a junior doctor quite soon, so I'll be doing some videos on that. So if that interests you, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see everyone in my next video.